probably seen everyone come together. I was a senior in high school when September 11th happened, and that was kind of the first real big tragedy and community issue I lived through. And being in high school and being involved in student government at that time, we kind of, even though we were young and didn't know a lot about the world, we took up our arms and wanted to support patriotism, support the efforts, support our communities, whether it was doing food drives or blood drives for the people affected in the World Trade Center. There were all those kind of things that we wanted to get involved in. And so seeing a community, we had a competitive canned food drive against Casa Grande High School, and we in Rancho Cotati was involved too, and we went undercover and went and poached cans from their neighborhoods and things like that. Seeing a community come together in a tragedy was huge. You guys being a little younger, that's kind of the world you've come up in, where there's been a war, multiple wars. There's been tragedy and disasters, whether it's hurricanes and floods and all the fires recently. Those are things I didn't experience growing up until I was in high school. And so being in Santa Rosa for that, being surrounded by this community, and then having them support me through my time in the military. I served in Iraq, and so I had this whole community behind me, sending me cards and letters and support. When I came home, they were there for me. That's very dramatic. Those tragedy, while it's always unfortunate, brings people together. And that experience for me happened because of September 11th. That was when I was kind of coming of age as a young adult, and seeing everyone rally together towards a common goal meant a lot. And I've seen it since then. Unfortunately, we haven't had a lot of peace and quiet and calm since then, but you still see a community that works really well together. Been in the military the way I was, it made sense. A lot of people go from the military into law enforcement if they can. If academically you can meet the requirements, physically you meet the requirements, your background's clean. I mean, that's kind of the hardest part about getting into law enforcement, is you have to have this kind of pristine personal history background. Drugs, gangs, domestic violence, those kind of things will disqualify you, some of them for life, from ever getting into law enforcement or any law enforcement job. In 2013, I was involved in a shooting in Marin, a high-profile shooting. In the rest of the world, nobody would care, but this was kind of around the time of the big race riots that were going on, and I shot an African-American male in Marin City. Following that, in 2014, I got fired for that. I lost my job with the sheriff's office, and going back, I wish I'd stayed in the military. I had to sue the department. I'm still in litigation 5 years later with the department. I work at the sheriff's office now, but I sit behind a desk. So in choosing my transition, I thought that it would be a very easy transition. The difference between the military and law enforcement is that law enforcement is very political. For everyone from the ground level up, there's always a certain amount of skin in the game. Sheriffs have to answer to the public. Chiefs of police has to answer to city councils and the public. Every single officer is responsible for kind of the actions of everybody. Whereas in the military, you don't have that. They're kind of self-controlling. There's not as much politics, certainly at the low level, at the sergeant's level. There's none of that. You got a mission and you accomplish it. Law enforcement is very different. It's a part of the community, and the community's demands aren't always in line with what law enforcement's role is, and that can be a point of conflict. And so that was a tough transition, and I didn't know that going into it. You think of law enforcement, you watch cops, and they just arrest bad guys, but there's a lot going on behind the scenes that can be stressful and difficult and frustrating at times. It's a career that's changed dramatically in the 10 years since I decided to go into it. You think about all the news and the media and the court cases and everything you see about law enforcement. It's not a great fun time for cops right now. I know you guys coming up in Roseland, you're well aware of that. With Andy Lopez and things like that have gone on. There is a rift, there's a conflict that's been around for most of your guys' lives, and those are things that you don't think about when you decide to become a cop, that you're going to be involved in that, or you're going to be a focal point of that you're going to be in the newspaper. If you Googled me in 2009, you'd see a guy who was an athletic coach in Roseland, high school athlete, member of the community, decorated combat veteran, all good things. You Google me since then, and now I'm a cop who shot a black guy, and that's a huge change in a negative light. The public was outraged at what happened, but there's a lot of kind of misinformation. There's this conflict, societal, that can change the perception of what events that happen and why they happen. It's difficult. So, my transitional decision was made because it seemed easy, it seemed normal. At the end of the day, the two worlds are very different. It's been my family, I'd say from day one, but they weren't pleased when I joined the military. They certainly, I said going over, I didn't have kids and I didn't have a wife, and so joining the military wasn't a big deal. But when I deployed to Iraq, I saw that it affected my whole community. It affected the whole city of Santa Rosa, my high school, all my classmates. Everyone now had some skin in the game, whereas before it was there's a war going on over there. Now it's your son, it's your best friend, it's your ex-boyfriend, it's whatever I was over there doing that. And I remember getting on that plane and with my mom there in tears. And so all of a sudden it was reality that this wasn't just me, it wasn't just some 17-year-old kid doing whatever he wanted. It was affecting everybody, and I was putting my life on the line, and they were worried. I look back at my time in Iraq, and every time the phone rang or there was a doorbell, my mom had a heart attack. She thought that was it. She was getting the call or getting the knock on the door. Law enforcement is not that much different. My wife working dispatch for an agency that I didn't work at, she was still monitoring everything I did, and I did a lot of stuff that she didn't like. Out chasing bad guys, getting in shootings, running across freeways. I'd come home and she'd be pissed that I was doing, because she's like, you're a father and you're my husband. How, why would you do that? I'm like, well, that's my job. And, we go back and forth. I'm like, you used to be a cop, you get it. And you can't convince someone that, putting your life on the line for anything is worth it when you're involved in that. But they've been supportive, amazingly so. And certainly they recognize that law enforcement is something that's kind of in my blood now. It's something I love to do, and I feel like I'm good at it. And I think I'm the cop they would want, in their neighborhood. So they have a lot of pride in what I do. I couldn't have got through everything I've done without them. There's no way. You can't do it by yourself. It's too stressful. It's too much. You've got to have a good support group. And so it would be my family. My partners, the deputies I've worked with over the years, they're super supportive as well. Everything that I've gone through with the department, this lawsuit and having my name dragged through the paper and stuff, they've been behind me 100%. There's never been even a question of that. And I think that's because, they worked on the ground with me. They know who I am and what I'm about. And again, there's this kind of lack of information. You get out into the public, you have a reporter who's never met me, never worked a beat with me, never been on a call with me, has no idea who I am, writing an article about why I shot somebody. And he has no clue. And then the public reads that. Now they have no clue. And you see how quickly that spreads, whereas the people who really know what go on is this little small group of people, and they don't really have the power to go out there and write articles and get the word out. So you need that support. It's kind of a protection from the outside.
My name is Nancy Carona.
My name is Freddie Merlot.
And I'm Amor Herrera.
My name is Juan Lopez.
My name is Edgar Franco.
My name is Jerry Flores.